Hello and welcome back to another video where this time I'm going to be talking about how to continue making a living as an artist with a dying social media account. So this is just going to be a very real and raw video because honestly it is not easy to maintain social media platforms as an artist while also doing your job as an artist, because I really feel like managing social media as an artist is kind of a job of its own. And I'll be real, the past few years I just feel like my accounts have been dying, which in some ways I am fine with now, but when it all started happening, I was resisting it a bit. But at the end of the day, I do feel like there are some sacrifices you do have to make as an artist. So let's get into that. So what I mean by dying social media accounts is, of course, your following or your engagement is not growing like it used to. And one of the issues a lot of artists face is that usually when we share our art or the behind the scenes of our art, it's not really like the main entree. Like, this is not the main thing that you're really doing for a living or for your passion or your career. Social media usually tends to be like a supplemental platform, which I feel like automatically kind of will knock you down a few points already as an artist in the social media game, because you're not on social media for the sake of just having an amazing social media platform. You originally had it with the intention of sharing your art, which is your bread and butter. So I do think that in the beginning of when I started posting comics on Instagram, that was kind of my golden era, because that was when, carousel posts were doing amazingly well before Reels and TikToks came into the picture. And when you do comics or narrative storytelling, you naturally increase engagement because you have a lot of images people will spend time on your account looking at, reading it, and then if it's an emotionally evocative comic, they'll comment on it. But these days, there's a lot more competition, and I just feel like it's natural for anyone who has been on social media for their account to at least eventually plateau or just go a little bit downhill. But as artists, we are always juggling so many things, as you probably already can tell. You're not just an artist, but you are also a content creator, your own marketing team, your own director, your own accountant. And sometimes that is almost impossible to do on just a simple laptop, which is why I'd like to thank the sponsor of today's video, JSAUX, who I am very honored to have the privilege of trying out the new FlipGo Horizon. So this is the FlipGo Horizon by JSAUX, which is a dual screen setup built specifically for artists like us who are remote creatives. The FlipGo Horizon is lightweight, super portable, and really fast to set up. The magnetic flip-out screens let me toggle between references, video editing, listening to music, or browsing online, all at once without dragging around a heavy second monitor, as this whole package came with its own little luggage that is really not that heavy at all. I can even attach accessories like my phone to it, and there are different types of setups you can use to minimize feeling like you have a cramped workspace. So if I'm ever on something like one of my art career retreats and I just need additional screen space, I can just bring my laptop and the FlipGo Horizon with me and have my own office setup no matter where I am. This is perfect for artists who travel a lot or just want to work outside of their own home but need that additional screen space. So check out FlipGo Horizon by JSAUX down in the links below if you want to learn more. And thank you again to JSAUX for sponsoring this video. So yes, ultimately, I feel like a lot of artists tend to struggle upkeeping their social media just because it is not really the main thing they can focus on, because there are content creators out there where their main job is to really sustain their social platforms and create content for social media. Whereas for artists, especially for myself, I always found that social media was the place to supplement where I share my art, or it's the place where I share the things that happen based in my world of being an artist, which, has its pros and cons. The good news is that from my experience, I really truly feel like you don't always need a big, constantly growing following just to continue having a successful art career. But the bad news is I feel like these days you still need social media with some substantial following to still have a successful art career. So it's more like, as long as your community is solid enough and engaging enough and has followed you for some time, I think you're good to go. But if you have a community, whether if it's big or small, that just isn't even engaging with you or doesn't even care about what you do, then I think that's when you're in real trouble. So I hate to break it to you, for those who are watching this video and kind of just want to hear an answer about not having any followers to have a successful independent art career, but I do have videos that do talk about ways to have a successful art career or income source without followers, so check out those videos there. But in this video, I'm mostly focusing on what to do if your social media platforms just aren't performing the ways that you would like to. So one of the things that I recently have been doing are art career retreats, which are kind of my new and latest business venture. And my struggle in the past was always creating products for Etsy or just digital products that are lesser in price but higher in quantity. And lately I've just been focusing on smaller quantities with higher prices. So that's why I feel like the art career retreats have been one thing that has been super helpful for me, because for art career retreats to be successful, you only really need around like 10 to 25 people to have one successful art career retreat. And 10 to 25 people, I feel like, is not as difficult to eventually accumulate versus having hundreds to thousands of customers that constantly need to be buying a more inexpensive priced item. So of course, these are completely two different things. One is a service and the others are mostly products. But I find that if you are able to at least establish a loyal following that has some sort of trust in you, and all you need is a small amount of customers, I think you need to just think about things that have a higher price point that is actually valuable to them. And the ways that I personally feel like credibility as an artist is usually established is just by what are you actually doing in your art career? What have you done in the past? I think that one of the things I am grateful for is that before social media really became more prevalent in my life, I did work in the animation industry for about 5 years. I've done a lot of freelances for other projects. I've also published a few books, traditionally and self-published, and I also have gained at least a substantial enough following online that, although I feel like it hasn't been growing the way that it used to, it still stands pretty solid for the things I need to do. So that's any motivation to maybe not need to focus on social media straight from the get-go. If you're like a student that has been thinking about what to do with your career and don't know what to do, I would say that always starting off with a 9 to 5 in the art world, whether it be animation, graphic design, motion graphics, video games, something in that space will always be beneficial no matter what, because you will always have that experience to give you that credibility for the future. I know a lot of people these days who want to just get straight into content creation, which is like great, but I just think that the issue as an artist is that sometimes people might rather listen to someone who has worked for some studios or some projects with other places, because I think that working with established companies kind of give you a greater sense of professionalism. But I also don't want to say that to discredit independent artists who have fully been independent, because there's a lot of value and credit to that as well. But I do feel like after you work in a studio for some time, it is kind of like you've been put to the test in the ringer, and that does also have an amount of respect given to it. So I do think if you don't know where to start with your art career and you're debating between independent or working for a full-time studio, and you have never worked for a studio before, I definitely think you should try to go for that 9 to 5, so that, you know, content creation, social media is always going to be there. And no one is saying that you can't do that while you're working the 9 to 5 job either, because I was definitely running my Instagram while I was working my 9 to 5 animation job. But the main focus I wanted to point out is that if you're at a point in life where you feel like you're not getting as many views, engagement, customers, because your social platforms have not been performing well, and maybe you're dealing with stuff in your personal life that is preventing you from really upkeeping your social platforms because you're busy with work, then don't focus so much on the quantity of things such as views, like customers. Try to focus more on like lesser quantity but higher quality of either service or product, so that you only need to rely on a few sales to get those done. And I feel like for me, as an artist that has always talked about, living life in order to create, the best art that you can, I feel like traveling and the art retreats have remained to be an authentic source of teaching for me versus just dishing out some storyboard courses online, which is why I feel like pretty successful so far, at least for me, because, if you're an artist that maybe is not so much into traveling and that's not really things people identify you or your brand with, then maybe doing something like that wouldn't make sense. So being really attentive to your specific voice as an artist is really important. But if your social platforms are kind of plateauing or dying as an artist, I wouldn't say that, okay, just let it die and let it go to waste. I think that it's okay to allow yourself to fluctuate throughout time. I don't think things always need to be a constant linear uphill trend. I feel like you're gonna always have moments of ups and downs as an artist, and sometimes those waves can last years at a time. For me personally, I'm kind of just allowing myself to take the hit at the moment, because I'm very aware that for me to grow my social platforms, I kind of have to create the art that is solely for social media entertainment at that point, whether it be comics or animations. Based on my past, those are the things that do very well, but at the same time, I do also have other obligations outside of the social media space that I have to fulfill, which I don't necessarily want to lose either. So I kind of have to shift my mindset to think that, okay, like social media stuff might have to take a hit for these years, but at least maybe in the traditional world, I have these things going for me, and then maybe in the future, things in my traditional world might not be doing as well, and then maybe my social platforms will kind of rise again. So yeah, it is very tricky to navigate social media as an artist these days. I feel like so many of us would also just wish that if we didn't have to expose ourselves on the internet, we wouldn't. But in this digital age, it's kind of necessary, but just don't beat yourself up too much if it's not working out the way that you want to, and don't give up just because things are not always on a uphill trend. Anyway, I hope that this video kind of just offered some insight onto how I've been approaching my stuff, maybe how you can too. And yeah, thank you again for watching this video, and I will see you all in the next one.